Make it make sense. We want to begin by honoring one of our brothers who is a clear example of why we are here today.
You see, Neal came from D.C. to the boundary waters of Minnesota with us and experienced nature in a way that reminded him of childhood adventure. Snowshoeing and dog sledding for the first time with other black men gave him a place for brotherhood and healing. He brought that connection to nature home as a tool for healing, using it in his work with Stay Solid Mental Health and Gun Violence Prevention for young men in D.C.
Tragically, Neal's life was taken from us by the same gun violence that he advocated against. But he always used to say, make it make sense. And that's what we're doing in our communities and with you today. My name is CJ Goulding. I've worked in community organizing for almost 10 years now. And when I look out into the world, I see a lot that doesn't make sense. I see a world that's isolated, divided, and disconnected from its roots. Our systems are failing us. Evidence backs this up. If you look to your left and you look to your right, studies say that 1 in 3 adults feel lonely. And I'm not saying it's you, but it happens to all of us. We have a nature deficit disorder, and it hits differently for communities of color, who have access to about 44% less green space than predominantly white communities. And when it comes to our mental health, only 1 in 3 Black Americans who have a mental illness actually receive the treatment that they need. This can't be the full picture, right?
You made some good points. Hi, my name is Ron Griswell, and something I learned from my days as a whitewater raft guide is that you can't just focus on the obstacles. You have to point positive. Evidence suggests that when we spend time together in natural environments, our feeling of interpersonal closeness rise. Evidence also suggests that just 20 minutes outside in nature reduces stress. Additionally, what if I share with you there's research showing that interventions built for a specific community prove 4 times more effective than generic treatment? Let that sink in. So CJ, let's use this evidence to point us in the right direction. How do we find our way?
That makes sense. I think we've been taught that healing lies within systems, in clinics, in institutions, in policies. What you're telling me is that our healing, our humanity, our well-being has always been rooted in connection to both nature and to each other. These seem essential to saving the soul of our nation and society.
And that's why I founded HBCUs Outside. We empower students and faculty at historically Black colleges and universities to find belonging and healing outdoors through establishing outing clubs and leading trips that reconnect them to each other, to themselves, and to the land. Hiking, camping, fishing, even a fish fry. These are both recreational activities and acts of reclamation. Across the thousands of students we've worked with, over 16 campuses from Florida A&M to Howard and to Spelman, we've seen what's possible. A manifestation of this potential is Anthony, a student I met at the North Carolina A&T State University Aggie Pride. There we go. In him, I saw my younger self. Someone deeply curious about the outdoors, but without proper access and resources to reach that first peak. And becoming the person I needed when I was younger, I guided him to the top of Mount LeConte in the Smokies. Oh man, and since then, the outdoors has become his personal sanctuary. He is now a guide, introducing his family and friends to nature through weekend adventures and through hosting a biannual brotherhood retreat in the mountains for the men of his church. And by the way, That trip in the Smokies is also what sparked the idea for Boyz N The Wood.
Ron gave me a call and was like, CJ, come help me lead this trip in the Smokies, where another young man named Benny had never been backpacking. Now, I think we were in nature for about 3 days, and Benny brought gear for 3 weeks. And this definitely affected his experience. And although he mentioned numerous times the weight of his pack as we were going up the mountains, and when I say numerous times, Ron, what was it, every 5 minutes or so? He also specifically mentioned that he was grateful for the time and the space in nature and the company of other Black men. It's ironic, carrying a 40-pound pack up the mountain gave him the opportunity to put down the weight he was carrying in his day-to-day life. Ron, I think we recognized immediately that we had an opportunity here to create more spaces like this, where community and nature were medicine. And so Boyz N The Wood was born. With Boyz N The Wood, we center Black men, time spent in nature, and mental health. We radically aim to reduce the barriers and stigma in current healthcare systems. We invest in the healing of Black men at no cost to them and equip them to become beacons for healing in their communities. We talk about needing new systems, and our system stems from 5 pillars of restorative connection, which are made up of
Rest, which is absolutely revolutionary.
nature, with which our communities and our ancestors have always had a relationship.
Brotherhood, because we simply don't walk through life alone.
And mental health and personal development, because we understand that growth begins with healing.
Now, you may be wondering, what does this look like individually, in community, or on a systemic level?
Well, let's start with the story of one person. When Matt returned from our nature retreat in the North Cascades, he told Ron and I that the trip had literally contributed to saving his life. He had been having trouble breathing before the retreat, and once he returned home, the doctors found blood clots in his lungs. However, the good food, the brotherhood, the relaxing, the rest, and the breathing exercises that he learned all helped to relieve his breathing issues. His healing was personal and tangible.
And it doesn't just stop with one person. There's a ripple effect. Men are transformed, inviting their brothers, their sons, and their fathers, taking the resources and programs back into their community. Neal, Anthony, Benny, and Matt are all examples of that ripple.
As a reminder, systems teach us that you have to do things alone, that care is something to be earned, and that we are separate from nature, that it's a resource to be used. But what we've learned is that community teaches us that we're stronger together, that care is a right, and that we are all a part of nature.
And we've always known that this is the answer, that nature and community are medicine. But what we need now is urgency and collaboration and action to make this a part of our society and daily lives.
Public health experts talk about social determinants of health, and with Boyz N The Wood, we're fostering communities of care across the country. These are woven local ecosystems where healthcare providers, outdoor companies, and community organizations collaborate to make sure that access to care and healing are not siloed or behind paywalls.
And with HBCUs outside, we're building similar communities of care where coalitions of universities, environmental organizations, and systems-focused foundations collaborate to weave nature into campus life and ensure these institutions don't just benefit from the outdoors, but shape the future of it. As a matter of fact, right here in good old Jacksonville, Project One Health Jacks is a shining example of what's possible. City leaders, trail planners, public health folks all working together on a systemic level to increase access to nature through trails and collaborate for the well-being of the community. And nationally, initiatives like Thrive Outside are investing in communities in similar ways. We do not do this work alone. Everyone has a seat at this table. If you lead an organization in health, the outdoors, education, talk to us, partner with us. Have your organization become a part of this constellation. You know, after returning from our retreat in the Boundary Waters that we mentioned earlier, Neal sent CJ and I a message. Here's what he said. During the last few years, I faced the hardest times of my life. My mental health was effed. I never experienced such a dark moment. I always thought I was too strong to go through any type of mental crisis, and God showed me how human I was. But he also brought me to you guys to show me I can heal.
Neal stood in nature's cathedral and got to experience the Milky Way out in the Boundary Waters. He stood under the same stars that guided our ancestors traveling the Underground Railroad on their journey towards freedom. And in his case, nature was guiding him towards healing.
And most importantly, remember, when you're looking up at the Milky Way, you're not just seeing one star. You're seeing billions. And that's powerful.
Janeway Skillen's work speaks about how the power in constellations does not just come from one star. It comes from a multitude of stars, weaving together to form and create something larger than the sum of their parts. And this is our vision. A constellation of communities in connection with nature, restoring the health and soul of our society. And our mission is simple but bold, to make access to nature and community-based healing just as accessible or normal, probably even more, than access to a pharmacy. And you play an important role in that. Whether that's here in Jacksonville or wherever you might call home, you can connect with nearby nature. You can do as Ron did and give somebody a call to come join you. Or you can collaborate to remove barriers to access and healing.
What if your neighborhood, your community, your circle was a hub for healing?
What if we were those stars, weaving and woven in those constellations?
Better yet, what if we didn't wait for systems to catch up?
And what if we used nature and community to care for people just like Neal? Neal, what do you think?
Yo, the Boyz N The Wood, man. I just want to say, I feel like I was the experiment, which means that I was the guy that they trying to get out here and get to see this experience, man. It was amazing, it was beautiful. It was something that I feel like everybody that's from the city, that's around buildings, that's just caught up in life, needs to come here, needs to be a part of this. It's breathtaking, man, and I cannot express it enough. Words can't even explain the experience that I had, and I appreciate all these guys, different country, different places, but with the same mindset. We came together and made something great. Appreciate you, Ron. Them Boyz N The Wood. You heard?
Come find us. Let's work together to honor Neal and make it make sense. Thank you.